A life full of hatred ends in one cry. Please, if you find wisdom in stories like this, I humbly ask you to subscribe to this channel. I create many videos, just like this one. Thank you, from the bottom of my heart. His name was Elias. For 50 years, he carried a storm inside him. A storm of hatred, of sorrow, and silence. He had one wish, only one, to see the man who killed his only son suffer, not just die, but suffer, slowly, painfully. And yet, at the end of his life, Elias walked into a temple, not to seek peace, not to find the Buddha, but to sit in silence and curse the world a little deeper. He had no idea that one quiet sentence from a young monk would break him down until he cried like a lost child. Have you ever hated someone for so long that you forgot what it felt like to breathe? What would you do if the person who destroyed your family stood right in front of you, asking for nothing? Would you forgive? Or would you turn away, still bleeding, still proud? Let me tell you what Elias did, and perhaps you'll see yourself in his tears. Elias was 76 years old. He lived alone in a small wooden house just beyond the village cemetery. People called him the man of silence. No one saw him smile. No one dared to ask him questions, because they knew he had buried more than a child. He had buried his whole life the day his son died. 50 years ago, Elias had a son named Noah, 8 years old, bright eyes, crooked smile, a boy who loved kites, and asked too many questions. But one night, a drunk man from the village, no anger, no fight, no warning, took Noah's life in a violent accident. 12 years in prison, that's what the man got. But Elias, he got life, not in a prison cell, but inside his own chest. A sentence of rage, of grief, of silence. His wife, she withered in sorrow. 2 years later, she was gone too. Elias sold his home, cut all ties, abandoned everyone. He made a vow that if the man ever walked free, he would follow him into hell itself. And then, the man was released. But Elias didn't kill him, didn't scream, didn't curse. He just watched from afar, fists clenched, heart burning, then turned away, back to silence. For the next 38 years, he said nothing about Noah, never lit incense, never spoke his name, because every time he tried, his heart would crack. Then at 75, Elias was diagnosed with cancer. No family, no visitors, nothing left to lose. So he walked to a small temple on the edge of town, not to pray, not to believe, but to sit and breathe quietly. He said, if I'm going to die, maybe I'll hear something sacred for my boy's soul. 3 days passed. He heard the monks chant, felt the wind through the leaves, but nothing moved him until the 4th morning. A young monk in June approached him. No sermons, no pressure, just a simple cup of tea and a single whisper. If you let someone else control your peace, then it no longer belongs to you. Elias froze, tea in hand, mind trembling. He stared at the monk, then the tree, then the sky, as if his son might appear any second. That night, for the first time in 50 years, Elias cried. He didn't cry like an old man. He cried like a father, who finally gave himself permission to break. The next day, he asked to stay longer. He sat under the Bodhi tree. No chanting, no praying, just stillness. And in that silence, the storm inside him began to fade. Weeks passed, and then, one day, the man who killed Noah came to that same temple, older, weaker, alone, holding incense, hands shaking. Elias saw him. He didn't walk over, didn't speak, didn't forgive. He simply watched, and then turned away. That evening, Elias left a small note beneath the statue of Buddha. It read, "I don't forgive what he did, but I no longer carry it. His guilt is his. My peace is mine again." There's a teaching in Buddhism, simple on the surface, but heavy with truth. Holding onto anger is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. Elias had been drinking poison for 50 years. Every day, every night. Not once did it touch the man who killed his son, but it burned Elias from the inside. It burned his sleep. It burned his peace. It burned what little love he had left. All that time, he believed revenge would bring justice, but it only brought distance from peace. You see, most people misunderstand forgiveness. They think it's for the other person. That to forgive means, what you did, it's okay. I'm fine. But no, forgiveness is not for them. It's for you. Forgiveness doesn't let them off the hook. It lets you off the hook of carrying pain that was never yours to hold forever. Elias didn't forgive the man, and he didn't have to. What he did was even harder. He let go of his right to stay broken. Because holding on didn't bring his son back. It only brought more suffering. And it never stopped until he chose stillness. Peace doesn't come from time. It doesn't come from apologies. It doesn't come from punishment. It comes the moment you stop arguing with what already happened. Think of it like this. A thief can break into your home, steal your things, take your money, but they can't steal your peace unless you keep handing it to them. Elias handed it over every day, every time he replayed that night. The scream, the blood, the silence after. Every time he let hate win, he relived the pain, and the man who caused it, he moved on. There's no justice in that, but there is a choice. You can suffer twice, or you can suffer once. Elias found his choice beneath a tree, in silence. No miracles, no fireworks, just truth. I don't forgive what he did, but I no longer carry it. He drew a line, not between him and the man, but between him and the pain. Ask yourself, who are you still angry at? Who lives in your mind long after they left your life? Whose shadow still controls your light? Peace begins when you stop feeding the fire and start planting seeds. The Buddha taught impermanence. Nothing lasts, not joy, not pain, not hate, unless We keep watering it. Your mind is a garden. If you feed it rage, it blooms with thorns. If you sit in silence and breathe, a single lotus may rise, even from the deepest mud. Elias didn't find religion. He found Noah again, not in memory, but in the wind, in the quiet, in the stillness that had space for peace. Maybe today, that's all you need. Not answers, not justice, just one breath and one moment to say, no more. Let me ask you, can you live a peaceful life while carrying hate? Do you believe pain makes you strong? Or has it only made you tired? Comment your thoughts. Your story may heal someone else. If you're still here, still listening, it means something in this story spoke to you. Not just the words, not just the man named Elias, but something inside you, a silence, a shadow, a memory you've never truly faced. Let's sit with that. No need to explain, no need to fight it. Just one breath, in, out. You see, the hardest part of peace is not understanding it, it's believing you deserve it. After the betrayal, after the loss, after the screams and silence, somewhere deep inside, you may have told yourself, I don't get to be at peace. Not until it's fair. But life isn't fair. And sometimes, peace doesn't wait for justice. Peace waits for you. Elias lived in a prison, not made of walls, but made of memory, of what should have happened, what could have been said. And the key was never in the hands of the man who hurt him. The key was inside him, all along. Maybe today, that key is inside you too, waiting for silence, for one whisper, one choice, to stop bleeding for someone else's wound. So let me ask you, who are you still carrying? Whose voice still lives in your head, even when they're gone? Whose name still stirs pain in your chest every time you try to sleep? It's time, not for revenge, not for justice, but for peace. Peace for you. Say it with me. No more. No more pain that isn't yours. No more stories that trap you. No more handing your peace to people who never earned it. You are not broken. You are not weak. You are not your past. You are the author. And this is the chapter where you rise. If this story touched you, please don't let it stay in this video. Let it move you. Let it become your story. Pushpin send it to someone still hurting. Pushpin share it to someone still waiting. Pushpin tag a name, even if they'll never read it. Let the wind carry it, like incense rising from an old altar. And if you have the strength, comment below. Tell me, who do you need to let go of? What wound still speaks when everything else is quiet? What truth did Elias help you see? I read your words. I reply when I can. Because like you, I'm walking this path too. This channel isn't about perfection. It's about returning to the part of you that still believes in light, in healing, in stillness, even after the storm. So if this is your first time here, subscribe, not for me, but for you, for the version of you that's ready to come home. I leave you with this. Peace was never far. It was never lost. It was always underneath the pain, waiting, breathing. Just like Elias, you can find it too. Today, right here, right now. One breath, one choice, one soft whisper. This pain lived here, but it doesn't own me anymore.